Let's play ChäoS Child. In the last episode, Tomoaki Watabe, the famously infamous Nikoniya web reporter, is dead. The fourth victim claimed by the new generation madness. And as a result, the culture festival was shut down and the newspaper club were brought in and interrogated by both Takeshi Shinjo and Mio Kunosato. Yeah, which didn't really go down that well, all things considered, especially given Mio's haughty attitude. And I know I was probably a bit too hard on her in the previous episode, and I'm pretty sure that Momose would jump to her defense if she were here, but she isn't here. She's busy working at Frisia Investigations, which is where she's supposed to be. And I do also know that Mio's attitude is very similar to a certain other person from ChäoS Head in the past, but that person was, though they may be haughty, was nowhere near as dismissive as Mio Kunosato was with the newspaper club. And not only did she highlight her dislike of Hanai Arimura, she also seems to have an intense grudge against Takuru Miyashiro, of all people. And speaking of that, Hanai has obviously now been outed as a police informant, cooperating with Detective Shinjo. But, yeah, they're not exactly on the same wavelength.
Arimura?
ああ、何ですかそれ。私アニメとか見ないんで。
He didn't seem really interested. Oh, that's right. Shinjo and Mio were looking at the map. And Serika overheard them talking about psychics. Well, that's what most people our age would think when they heard the word psychic. They would think of anime and such.
尾上、他に何か聞こえなかったか？新庄さんたちの話。
That depends.
他にはね、
They were speaking very quietly with the obvious intention of not wanting to be overheard. She was about to open her mouth. But then the sound of the door opening cut her off. That who I think it is?
おーい、宮代くん、和樹く
Ah,
んい
it
る？
is.
それに有村くんも。
Yeah. Fancy running into you again, and it has his name right here. Suichi Wakui was his name. He was introduced before when, after Takuru was hospitalized after the Love Hotel incident, so his name was mentioned. And he is still, for the time being, the, advisor for the newspaper club, in spite of the fact that it's being closed down. And it would actually stand to reason that he was the one that brought Watabe to the room that, that waiting room where he inevitably ended up in. But yeah, it's quite understandable that Watabe would actually forget his name because of his laid back laid back attire here. But that begs the question: why weren't you interviewed and interrogated by Shinjo and Mio as well? I mean, you are the
先
club
生、
advisor after all. Huh.
よーしよし、おとなしくしてるね。そろそろ警察に行くよ。
Ah, so yeah, you are going as well. That makes
え
sense.
警察の人が迎えに来るんじゃ。
引率係だよ。君たちは別に犯罪者じゃないし、あくまでもうちの生徒だからね。警察に呼ばれたなら僕が連れて行くのが筋だと思って。
Well, how very chivalrous of you, Mr. Wakui.
どうだい？僕っていい教師だろ？
Yeah, I would have said that, but your attitude and your begging for approval kind of loses you a few points there. As if he'd ever actually done for us anything for us as our advisor, as Kurisu can attest. But still, I felt just a little relieved.
それじゃ行こうか。ああ、伊藤君と尾上君はすぐに帰宅すること。いいね。
Interesting.
ういっ
How's
す。
that?
は
The two of them started to get ready. I thought we were all going to
先生、
the station.
なんだい？
その、文化祭はどうなるんでしょうか。
Chances are,
さあ、今ちょうど会議中でどうなるかはまだわからないね。
chances are it won't last. Not after what happened. That's all he said before he left the room. It was strange. Why'd I ask that?
文化祭なんて、別にどうでもよかったのにな。
Well, as dull of an event, well, others thought it was enjoyable. And speaking of which, yeah, we weren't the other ones that we weren't the only ones that witnessed Watabe's demise. It was all of his fans and followers as well at Heikyo Academy. They'll be feeling pretty glum, and despite our differences, they did actually put a lot of effort into trying to make the Culture Festival a fun thing for them, even if it's not our cup of tea. And there's Arimura chiming in. And a very different personality from how she was acting up until this point. Lying. How? I wanted to ask what she meant, but it was clear that she wasn't going to tell me, as she's gone. She followed Wakui out into the hallway.
どうかした？宮代君。
I could hear him from outside the room.
ん
And Kazuki is here as well. Kazuki made a let's go gesture and looked at my face.
あ、
I can't really stay here any longer. There was something that I wanted to know, no matter what. What Serika just said. About about Shinjo and Kunosato seriously discussing the word psychics. Wakawi's entrance had interrupted our conversation, but I wasn't sure if it was okay to really write the idea off as silly nonsense.
すみません。これから警察行くなら結構時間かかりますよね。
そうなるだろうね。
だったら貴重品とかまとめて持って行ってもいいですか？置きっぱなしっていうのもなんなんで。
ああ、確かに。有村君、君も自分の教室へ行って持ってきなさい。僕は昇降口で待ってるから。
I'm surprised he's letting us do that, but we should,
はい。
yeah, we should not look a gift horse in the mouth. I listened to the two of them walk away. Okay, that should buy me a little time.
おい、尾上。
お、どうしたのタク？
し、さっきの話の続きだけどな。聞かせてくれないか？
And, once again, ominous mobile smartphone message from Amy. And this time it's not between Ed Lucas, it's with someone called Max Caddy, although it is obviously an alias, clearly. October 10th, 2015 Saturday. Shinjo grimaced. The smell of death was enough to make him nauseous. Tomoaki Watabe's body had been taken to a university hospital and put on an autopsy table less than 2 hours after his death. Normally an autopsy would never be held this quickly, but these are unusual circumstances. There was paperwork that needed to be filled out, and the family needed to agree. But Watabe's death was so bizarre that a cause of death needed to be found as soon as possible. Shinjo had taken a hard line with his superiors and used rather forceful methods to get the family's permission to perform a lightning-fast autopsy. The police force as a whole seemed determined to avoid a repeat of the failures 6 years ago. Yeah, that's because they didn't listen to a certain grizzled detective in the past. Shame on you. But what was truly unexpected was Kunosato's statement that she would attend the autopsy as well. Since he couldn't let a civilian, especially a high school girl, attend an autopsy unsupervised, he had been forced to go with her. The hospital's autopsy room was kept clean and very different from the musty atmosphere you often saw in foreign movies. Usually, autopsy rooms are very clean in movies and TV. But to Shinjo, the invisible smell of death was still thick in the air. It was nothing like seeing a dead body at, seeing a body at the crime scene, dead or otherwise. It was almost physically uncomfortable. But Mio Kunosato, as near as he could tell, didn't seem bothered at all. Shinjo and Kunosato were watching the autopsy from the waiting room next door. The wall had glass to allow them to see into the room, also known as a magic mirror. Also known as a two-way mirror. Whatever, never mind. The external and internal examinations had been completed, and they were now opening up the stomach and examining it. Were the cause of death merely a horde of sumo stickers shoved down his throat? Or is there more to this?
君はこうなることを予見していたのか?
Well, we were anticipating something was going to take place today.
要件
At the very least.
今日わざわざ渡部の対談を見に行くと言い出したのはなぜだ? それどころか有村ひなえにも渡部と接触するよう昨日から指示していたんだろ?
That she did. But of course she's keeping quiet on her reasons.
まさか実は君が黒幕だとかいうオチはやめてくれよ。
そうできるならそうしてもいいかもな。
I think it was referring to the interview set up in the first place, not the murder. Interesting that you would respond as such. Shinjo couldn't tell if she was serious or not. I think she's always serious. He'd spent the last several days with her, but he still had no idea what she was thinking.
渡部が殺されるかもしれないという予感はあった。予感を確信に変えるために有村に接触するように指示したんだ。
Need I point out that once again that you were the one that instigated the flame war between Watabe's internet followers and those of the newspaper club in the first place, which led to the whole interview situation happening to begin with?
だが、まさか今日殺されるという予想はしていなかった。
Even though you knew that the 10th was a very important day.
有村ひなえが渡部に接触すると何がわかるんだ?
Yeah, because Watabe behind his reporter shtick was just a media, an attention seeker. Sorry. She didn't answer him. Even though he was sharing police information with her. Would it really kill her to be a little more cooperative? Probably.
渡部はあの若さでスクープを連発しすぎていたと思わないか?
それは何か?
Indeed. Yeah, somebody has been also nudging him in certain directions as well. Just as he spoke, he could hear a muffled moan from the coroner. Something's happened. There were microphones in the autopsy room that would let them hear anything said there.
どうしたんだろう? どうしたんだ?
Shinjo pounded on the glass and motioned for the coroner to explain. I think they're more than a little shaken. The coroner nodded and moved the body so that they could see it better. Then he held up a pair of tweezers. He plunged the tweezers into Watabe's open abdomen. From where Shinjo and Kunasato were standing, they couldn't see inside. The tweezers seemed to grab something. I think I should give a warning and say brace yourselves. This, given what we've seen so far, this might turn ugly. Or even uglier. That was all he said as he lifted up the tweezers. Between them was... a sumo sticker. In excellent condition.
綺麗すぎるな。
Yeah, you would think that the digestive acid in the stomach would have dissolved part of it. But despite the blood and gore and vomit, it's still relatively intact, which is very peculiar. But this one too has very different markings compared to the other ones. It wasn't twisted or broken. The sticker was almost entirely intact, as were all the other ones.
それだけじゃない。こんなのは異常だ。
Suddenly, Kunosato opened the door leading into the autopsy room.
おい、勝手に。
You couldn't go in there without changing your clothes or disinfecting yourself. He tried to tell her that, but gave up, since she clearly was going to listen to that. Anyway, not. It was more important to find out what the coroner had seen. So he followed her in, even though he knew he wasn't supposed to. Protocol, am I right? The coroner said nothing. He just stood silently, holding his tweezers. Even Kunosato was shocked by what she saw in the body. So was Shinjo.
これは。
He covered his mouth with a handkerchief. It was just too bizarre. Watabe's stomach was so swollen, it seemed about to burst. And inside the stomach, he could see not just dozens, but hundreds of sumo stickers.
まだちゃんと確認はしていないが、食道にも異常なほどの膨張が見られる。シールが途中で詰まっている可能性が高い。
考えられる死因は？
Hard to say. It's very tempting to go to the blatantly obvious one. But then again, it wasn't simply the stickers that killed Watabe.
窒息死だろうな。
つまりこういうことか。渡部は窒息するほど何枚も何枚も何枚も力士シールを飲み込んでいたと。
Pretty much. No one, not Shinjo or the coroner, said a word. Very gruesome. And back to Takuru. By the time Kazuki and I got back from the police, the school looked completely different. Now that the festival has pretty much been cancelled. The bustling school building was now almost completely empty. All the police tape was gone except for the gym where the death had occurred. They must have finished their examination of the area. From the look of things, if I went back to the club room I probably wouldn't find anyone, but for now...
Huh?
ああ、タク、花ちゃん、おかえり。
Ah, you two are back.
なんだ、思ったより早かったな。
Serika and Ito were there.
有村は？警察からまっすぐ帰った。もしかして僕たちを待っててくれたのか？
誰が好き好んで野郎を待たなきゃいかんのだ。和樹のことを待ってたんだよ。
Really?
うん。
I wouldn't put it past you. Kazuki gave Ito a little bow. Well, at least she's grateful to him.
花ちゃん、騙されちゃダメだよ。しんちゃんは片付けに時間がかかってるだけだから。うん？
こらこら、言うなお前は。
Well, that's what I figured, but I felt a little, no, a lot better. I could still see that awful corpse when I closed my eyes. Since I hadn't eaten anything since this morning, there was nothing to go up my throat but stomach acid. Because of that, my esophagus was starting to hurt. Just being able to talk to everyone like this made me feel a lot better. Cherish this moment while you can, Takuru. They're few and far between.
あ、でも片付けってことはやっぱ中止なのか、学祭。
うん。タクが出てった後、アナウンスがあって。
Well, we pretty much knew that was how things were going to go.
そっか。もしかしたら延期って可能性もあるかと思ったんだけど。
ま、しゃあねえわな。なんたって殺人だからな。
So much for the third anniversary of the festival. And since it might have to do with all the other strange deaths, the school probably didn't have much of a choice.
で、お前らの方はどうだったんだよ。犯人扱いとかされなかったか？大丈夫か？
Probably went pretty well considering the fact that we actually made it back here to begin with.
なんで僕が疑われるんだよ。むしろ重要な目撃者だぞ。
だからじゃねえか。ミステリーで目撃者っつったら容疑者確定だろ。
Yeah, but that normally implies that the witnesses are the only ones there with no one else to give them an alibi. But in this case,
刑事ドラマの見過ぎだって。
it's not quite that simple, Shinji. But still, just like Shinjo had said earlier, it would make sense if they suspected me, I think. Except, of course, that Takuru was waiting pretty much most of the time in the stage auditorium, so that actually rules him out, which obviously it should. This was the second time after the revolving dead incident that someone had died near me.
それにしてもさ、本当に今日事件が起こるなんてな。これで俺たちの推測は当たってたってことだな。
Yeah. Convenient that.
そうだな。
I leaned my tired body back into a chair and looked at the map on the wall. Now there was even more evidence. We could be certain that at this point that what happened this morning was in some way related to the new generation madness. But we didn't know who had done it, or why. The sumo stickers that made me sick every time I saw them were the only clue we had.
しかも今回の渡部の殺人にはそれが直接凶器として使われていた。
は？なんだって？
Yeah, that's a certain detail that Shinji didn't know about. Well, to be honest, I really didn't want to remember that. There was no way to know this unless you experienced it for yourself, but seeing something in a video and seeing it in person were two radically different things. That they are. The biggest difference was the smell. Even if there was no blood, like this morning, there was still a unique stench in the air. Part of it was the smell of vomit and the excrement that had slid out of the body after the muscles had relaxed. But it was more than that. There was a unique stench the bodies of the dead possessed. The smell of death, you might call it. Indeed, that's exactly what Shinjo called it. Whenever I saw the body in my mind, I also remembered that scent. Once again, gruesome.
警察の話だと、渡部の死因は窒息死だよな。口の中に例のシールがいっぱいだったんだろ？
Yeah, pretty much.
シールを口に入れられて喉に詰まっちゃったのかな。
We don't quite know that for sure.
犯人はなんでそんなことしたんだ？つうかさ、そもそも今までの事件と犯人が同じだと思うか？
I think that one we can chalk up.
どういうこと？
だってなあ。
Ito stopped and shrugged. Might be tempting to say that this one was a copycat one, but it's too bizarre to make that call. I knew what he was trying to say. If we assumed that all these incidents were related, compared to Don't Look at Me, Leaky Noise, and Revolving Dead, this murder seemed very different. The killer jammed sumo stickers in the victim's mouth until he choked. It was cruel, sure. It also felt sloppy, brutal, and crude. Then again, some of the original New Generation murders were like that. But...
僕だって最初はそう考えたよ。警察から話を聞くまではね。でも。
When I was leaving the station, I heard the cops talking about the results of the autopsy. They said Watabe's stomach was filled to bursting with sumo stickers. So this case was every bit as weird as the other three. I tried to get out of the chair, but I was still a little tired, so I staggered a bit.
すべての事件の特徴を順を追って見てみると、今回の事件も明らかに同一の事件に属するものじゃないかと思えるんだ。
これまでの事件と共通点があるってこと？
それを聞いてほしい。順を追って話す。
Yeah, we need to find that commonality. Once again. That's right. What I was about to explain included a critical factor that we never even considered before. It was what I talked to Serika about before I left the police station, or for the police station.
さっきの話の続きだけどな。聞かせてくれないか？
Yeah, time to see what else Serika managed to learn.
さっきの話？
言ってたろ。新庄さんと黒里さんの話。能力者とか不可思議なこととか。
だっけ、
What did they say? Could be a vital clue in the case.
そうそう、なんかね、変なんだって、これまでの事件が。
Oh, you already know that.
そりゃ変だろ。だからこそ僕たちだって追っかけてるわけだし。
ああ、そういう意味じゃなくてね、死んだ被害者の人たちが。
The victims.
ん？
最初の犠牲者、こっちみんなの人のニア生のタイトル知ってるよね。
俺氏、未来が見えてしまう件だろ。
Yeah, that's right. I'd completely forgotten about that fact. Yeah.
本当にね、その未来を予知できたのかもって。
Yeah. Well, I can remember his face, but not his name. But, yeah, his predictions were unusually accurate.
は？
That's crazy. Was it some kind of joke?
で、次の音漏れ単なんだけど、ライブに来てた人が変だったんだって。
変ってどういう意味だ？
なんか熱に浮かされてたみたいな感じ。歌自体は大したことないんだけど、歌声に取りつかれたみたいな。
なんだよそれ。よくわかんないな。
そんなこと言われても、そう言ってたんだもん。
Yeah, so there was something else going on.
まあいい。で、次の回転デッドは？
Now on to the third murder.
バイトなのに業績がすごく良かったって。
それは単に有能だっただけじゃないのか？
そうなんだけどね、なんかこう相手の望んでることがわかるっていうか、もしかしたら盗聴でもしてるんじゃないかって陰で言われてたみたい。
Kakita was bugging people's offices? Well, it's just a rumor, but... So in all these cases, more peculiarities arise.
私が聞いたのはこれで全部だけど。
いや、上出来だ。よくそこまで聞き取ってくれたな。
Yeah, because, strange as it may seem, what Serika has given us was actually pertinent information. There are other factors besides the victims themselves that have a part to play in all this.
もしかして役に立つ？
It was indeed useful. It won't crack the case, but it will definitely be something to consider. something that needs to be taken into account. Shinjo and Kunosato were talking very softly, so I hadn't been able to hear it at all. It was definitely thanks to Serika that we had this information. But still.
能力そんなまさか。
おーい、宮代くん、まだなのか？
あ、すみません。すぐ行きます。
Yeah. Come to think of it, there was one particular mention of psychics during the original New Generation Madness. Something that Takuru might remember if he can actually recall what that was. After what I'd heard from talking to Serika, it was unbelievable, but if I looked at all the cases so far in light of that,
すべてを確かめるためにもう一度事件を整理してみるから見ててくれ。
So, we now have to account for predigitation, or whatever. I turned to face the board on the wall. When I did so, I could feel strength coming back to my tired body and mind. Good. I was fine, at least for the moment. What happened this morning hadn't made me afraid, even though we probably should be. Everyone looked at the map of Shibuya, even Kazuki.
なんだ、円数2をプレイするんじゃないのか？
For some reason, Kazuki always participated when we used this. Well, whatever. I should start with the first case. The keys were what I'd heard from Serika before going to the police station and what I knew about the victims. Together, they implied that...
そうか。やっぱりそういうことなのか。
No, wait. That can't be right.
けど、そう考えれば全ての辻褄が合う。
It might be a convenient explanation, however. Actually, there were a lot of things that could only be explained that way. My mind raced. And soon I felt a curiosity welling up within me that overrode the terror and disgust I felt when I was at the scene of the murders.
やっぱりそうだ。信じられないけれど、あり得る。
Yeah, there's that obsessive drive that Kurisu was afraid of. But it's too late now. It was a stupid idea, maybe. But if it were true, it would be incredible, if we can actually prove it. It would change everything we thought we knew about the world. Hmm.
なんだよ、気持ち悪いな。急に変な笑い声出すなよ。
Yeah, it kind of is there, Serika.
だってね、なんかいつものタクに戻ったなって。
No, we're just going to take the compliment. Now that I thought about it, I'd gotten so excited that I'd forgotten the nightmares that were going on around me. I should get back on topic.
僕は気づいたんだ。 直接犯人には繋がらないかもしれないけど、事件の全容を知る上で、いや、ひょっとしたら世界の常識を覆すような大きな共通点に。
Besides the stickers. I could see Kazuki gasp in surprise.
マジかよ。
す
Of course, once again, we actually have to show what that entails. Everyone was looking at me as I explained everything in turn.
まず今回の渡部氏殺害事件がニュージェネの狂気の再来と呼ばれる一連の事件の延長線上にあるという話。
Interesting that his murder would be the one that they're calling the return of the new generation madness. And also, by the way, Hikio Academy. Hi, yeah, right here. Why an academy would have a high score and a middle
でも
score?
よ、さっきも言ったけど、
I
ただ
don't
の
know.
窒息死なんだろ。
いや違う。渡部の死因は確かに窒息死だけど、単に口の中いっぱいに力士シールを詰め込まれて死んだわけじゃない。
どういうことだ？
I stopped for a moment and took a deep breath. I knew that when I imagined it, I was going to shiver.
彼は力士シールを胃の中までいっぱいに詰め込まれて死んだらしい。
Indeed. Everyone's eyes went wide. I could tell that they were trying to figure out the meaning of what I just said.
胃の中まで？それって。
Unfortunately.
そう。力士シールを無理やり、それも噛み砕くことなく原型を残したまま大量に飲み込んで、あるいは飲まされて。
Yeah. And there's the wrinkle. The fact that the stickers were undamaged even in his stomach.
それが原因で窒息して死んだ。そういうことになる。
そいつはまた。
That's the autopsy report for you. It's very chilling. And grotesque.
雑どころじゃないんだ。むしろあまりにも変質的なんだよ。
だったら確かに今回の事件も一連の事件と同じ流れの中にあるってことになるわけか。
Essentially. I nodded, then wrote down a brief outline of Watabe's death and pinned it to the map. Connecting it to the vampire house case.
だがな、宮代。それがさっき言ってた世界の常識を覆すほどの共通点なのか？
Oh, we're not done yet, Shinji.
いや、今のはただ渡部氏殺害事件が連続殺人事件の一環であるということを確認しただけで、もちろん本題はこの先にある。
Yeah. There is more to this. I stopped talking for a second and looked around at everyone's faces.
まず、こっちみんなと呼ばれている第一の事件の被害者、大谷優馬。彼は未来がわかると言っていた。
Now factoring in Serika's testimony there, and that was his name, Yuma Utani.
んなのただの煽り文句だろ。
That's what everyone assumed, but surprisingly, it's no gimmick.
いいから最後まで聞けって。
Ito shrugged and stopped talking.
第2の事件、音漏れ炭。被害者、高柳百音の歌声には妙な魅力があったってファンは口を揃えて証言してる。
There's that name that will continue to, yeah, pretty much destroy my throat. Yeah, but
聞いているだけでトランス状態になれるって。
Was that truly of her own abilities or someone else's?
うんうん、あの刑事さんそんなようなことを言ってた。
That's what reports say, but it could be very well possible that the fans themselves were brainwashed, and not just by the victim.
クラブとかで踊ってる連中と同じだろ。音楽や歌が聴いてる人間をトランス状態にするのはよくあることだ。
True, but this is going a step beyond that.
人をそういう状態にするにはそれなりの条件が必要だろ。クラブなんかはそういう効果をもたらすために作られた閉鎖空間だ。でも高柳百音がストリートライブをしていた場所は違う。何の設備もない路上だ。
Yeah. In other words, she didn't have the lighting or other effects that would normally be on a stage or in a club.
まあいいや、続けてくれ。
Then again, there are people who are into live performances anyway.
そして第3の事件、回転デッドの被害者、柿田博則。彼はまるで顧客の心が読めているみたいだったそうだ。
Yeah, supposedly.
おい、まさか。
Or it might be more than a supposition. Ito seemed to realize what I was trying to say. That's my partner for you. He's got good intuition.
渡部のあの写真、力士シールの表情が違うってことは言ったよな。
Yeah, that's true. I'd already told everyone that the expression on the sumo sticker I'd photographed at the Love Hotel and the one in Watabe's article were different.
最初あれはコラージュか何かだと思った。実際渡部にはそういう噂があったからな。でもどうやら違うらしいんだ。刑事に確認してみたんだよ。そしたら渡部の撮った写真には改ざんされた形跡はなかったらしい。
Which means there is a certain other element to these cases.
となると考えられる可能性は。
And given the phenomena that Takuru himself witnessed in his own trailer with his own sumo sticker, there was a chance that many of Watabe's too good to be true photographs weren't taken with the camera. Almost like that one video with that wipe effect, quote unquote, that was posted as well. He probably used some form of psychic photography, or at the very least knew somebody who had it. I wrote everything that occurred to me down on a memo and pinned it to the map. It's Ace Attorney logic, but it's what we have right about now. And like Ace Attorney logic, yeah, it could very well lead to the truth, ridiculous as it sounds. Ito laughed as I put it up.
いやいや待てって。いくらなんでもそりゃないだろう。
There is still that matter of that video that I just referenced earlier.
しんちゃん、今ので分かったの
Kazuki seemed irritated that Ito had figured out the answer before her. She started to bang on the wall like she always did. You know, you should stop doing that. Yeah, property damage is not going to help us. She's still upset though.
要するに宮代はこう言いたいんだ。
Looks like he's going to counter us in a rebuttal, which is true classic Ace Attorney style.
今回の事件の被害者に共通するのは、全員不可解とも思える現象を引き起こしていたという点だ。それが意味するのは、
Indeed. There were some peculiarities about these victims. There has to be some greater implication as to why they've been selected to be murdered. Yes, and that means they... Yeah, we have three options here. Three different possibilities that we can use to explain this. But I am actually going to leave that for the next episode. So when we return, adventurers, we have three options before us, but only one of these options is the correct one. As far as our current course of logic goes, at least. So I will leave you here until the next episode, adventurers. So, as always, until next we meet.